Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. It has been a very busy day, so I have to forgive the late notification. I just tweeted out this show. I didn't even have time to talk to Kari and get a thumbnail, but we can fix that. So I thought that I've been thinking a lot, actually, about all of the misdirection and deception that is involved with the world of UFOs. And maybe we can talk about this because I think, uh, given the amount of misdirection and especially deception in the world of UFOs, this is another of those elephant in the room situations that no one seems to talk about. No one seems to care. No one seems to mind that there are hordes of people lying to you, lying to me, and lying to the public in general. And I don't want to get too conspiratorial here, but we will see as we go through a short presentation tonight just how much deception is involved in the world of UFOs. A troubling amount of deception. Some would argue all of it is deception. I'm still on the fence about that, but I thought it important if someone like me, for those unaware, I am a former stage magician, but please don't throw anything at me for that. But a magician is trained in the art of both misdirection and deception. And call it a blessing or call it a curse. But if someone reaches the level, especially of a professional magician, we tend to have this uncanny ability to see right through both misdirection and deception. After all, these are tools of our trade. Magic only works through misdirection and deception. Obviously, a magician is an actor playing the part of a magician. And that was really hard for me to get my head around at the time. I was very interested, intrigued, who wouldn't be, by entering that world and learning all of those deep, closely guarded secrets that made illusions and magic work. What is it about magic that makes us suspend our disbelief? What is it about magic that makes us believe that a coin has really vanished when the reality is it's still in the magician's other hand? There are careful psychological tools that we use in order to make an illusion work and be believable, in order to make people not realize the true nature of the illusion or what makes that illusion work. Ask anybody who has been a professional magician. There's a big letdown after a while. And that letdown comes in realizing that even the grandest, most spectacular illusions, for example, David Copperfield vanishing the Statue of Liberty, the way that worked was so incredibly simple and stupid, no one would guess that this man was able to vanish a national monument with such a simple and stupid method. And it's not my place to reveal another artist's methods, so I won't. But you may look into something called force perspective if you're curious, really curious about how people are able to vanish things like trains or elephants or even a huge national monument in the form of the Statue of Liberty. So there's something about deception and misdirection that to a magician becomes incredibly obvious. Maybe it's that we've employed the same tactics so many times that spotting misdirection and deception becomes easy for us. And like I said, that can be both a blessing and a curse. Uh, one moment here. Sorry. Get my do not disturb on so we don't get pinged through this whole thing. And by the way, I would like to ask that people be aware that although I have a public Facebook account and a public Twitter account, I do have notifications on my phone. So when you send me 20 Q videos at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, my phone pings 20 times, just so you're aware. But back to the discussion here about misdirection and deception in the world of UFOs. This should be a fairly quick presentation. I don't even have notes. I do have some bullet points. Some of you, of course, are aware that there is the deception of the US government. For 70 years, maybe more, the United States government has been hiding what they know about UFOs and aliens. And with the exception of what I believe to be a CIA psyop to control the narrative, like TTSA or Luis Elizondo, they were going to give us disclosure, a whole bunch of former CIA spooks, right? No, this was another form of misdirection and deception. Look here, not here. And someday we may know what it is that those people involved in that psychological operation, which I firmly believe now to be a CIA psyop. And there's evidence of that in the form of no one being prosecuted for what can essentially only be called a techno scam that scammed the general public out of multiple millions of dollars. You or I would be prosecuted for that, but somehow no one was in the case of this CIA psyop. The government doesn't want to prosecute their own operatives. And this may be why no one was prosecuted, because this was an op. But back to the government, one accepted really up until TTSA and Lou Elizondo and the 2016 PSYOP also participated in by the New York Times. We in the UFO community always believed, we were told, and we believed, because there's evidence that makes us believe that the United States government has been hiding what they know about UFOs and aliens. And many have said or believe that it all started with Roswell. Could have been even before Roswell. There were a lot of UFOs in World War II, and that's certainly before 1947. What is it that the government even knows about the World War II UFOs or Foo Fighters that many fighter pilots saw? Glowing orbs of plasma or energy flying around their bombers. But we still don't know. We still don't know what the government knew about that back in the early 1940s. But somehow we're supposed to believe that a whole bunch of former government CIA people and black ops people and black budget program people were going to get together with a public benefit company and tell us the truth about those aliens. No, that was an op, my friends. It's very clear, and as time goes on, it will become more clear. After all, we now know that they're employed in that operation. They employed a great deal of psychological tactics and misdirection and deception to make that op work. We need to be very clear about what we were told. We were told that Luis Elizondo was a former government worker who was disgruntled about the way that UFOs were being handled. So he quit the government. He quit the government and he was going to become an activist and bring us the truth about those UFOs and aliens. with his friends, all those CIA spooks from the CIA, and an aged out rock star that hasn't sold a record in a decade, right? Yeah, sounds good. However, recent revelations have shown that Luis Elizondo was deceptive. The New York Times article is attributed to him as the major source of all the information in the article. And there are a multitude of complete and total factual inaccuracies. Some would say half-truths. Some would say lies in the New York Times article that started that psychological operation. And it is very clear now that Luis Elizondo or someone lied to the New York Times. They said he was a former government worker, but we now know that he never stopped working for the government. So the narrative, which we were fed, a deceptive narrative, completely and totally falls apart under scrutiny. And it's interesting that it took this long, years it took, for the false narrative that Luis Elizondo and the media fed us about ATIP and OSAP. It took years for that narrative to fall apart. We now know that ATIP was not a Pentagon program. It never was. It was an activity. ATIP and being the director of ATIP was never Luis Elizondo's job, period. He claimed that it was his job, that he was the director of a $22 million Pentagon UFO program. We also now know that members of the media colluded along with these former CIA operatives and Luis Elizondo to influence the public for some purpose. Leslie Keene later admitted that she left out of her article all the stuff about OSAP. And you know how they actually used that $22 million to study things like werewolves, poltergeists, and dino beavers. Yes. On Skinwalker Ranch. She left all that out because she thought that it wouldn't look good, right? She wanted to focus on the UFOs, even though that $22 million was not used to study UFOs, as Luis Elizondo and his CIA friends claimed. No, rather, that $22 million was a sweetheart deal given by Senator Harry Reid, who got that government $22 million and gave it in a no-bid contract to his buddy, Bob Bigelow. Later, we would also find out that during that study where $22 million in taxpayer funds were essentially wasted on nonsense, I wouldn't even call it scientific research. I would call it nonsense research of a ranch that many claim to be a paranormal hotspot that just so happened to be owned by the person who got the no-bid contract to do the study of the ranch that he owned. And all of us taxpayers paid $22 million to that man that just happened to own the ranch that was a paranormal hotspot. So as we can see, the New York Times article completely falls apart under scrutiny. It was misdirection. What were they trying to misdirect us away from? I believe that partially they were trying to direct us away from the truth of what happened to our $22 million. What did we get for the $22 million? If you look into it, we got a bunch of written reports about a bunch of nonsense. And through the New York Post reporting and Stephen Greenstreet, we now know that people straight just lied about paranormal activity on the ranch because Bigelow didn't like to hear that nothing happened when he called in to check on paranormal activity every week going on at the ranch. He was paying people to study the paranormal activity on the ranch he owned that he somehow got paid $22 million to study his own ranch. You can't make this stuff up, friends. But Leslie Kean knew that if she told the truth in the article, it would look bad for, moving the UFO subject forward. People would laugh at the fact that people saw dino beavers. That's right, half beaver, half dinosaur at at the Skinwalker Ranch. And reports of dino beavers is one of the things that we, the taxpayers, got for our $22 million. So there was a great deal of misdirection and deception right from the very beginning. And this New York Times article, I believe that Leslie Kean and Blumenthal and others were perhaps, and I freely admit this is speculation, paid off by the CIA or other nefarious organizations, alphabet soup, whatever you prefer, DIA, CIA, all of those agencies. Someone got big members of the media, including the New York Times, to go along with a deceptive narrative. Normally a journalist at the level of writer for the New York Times care about their reputation. They would have to fact check facts before writing them in the New York Times. But in this case, no one fact checked the statements, the false, completely and totally false statements made by Luis Elizondo. He was the major source of the article. So if we have to point fingers at who lied to the New York Times, it would be Luis Elizondo, the source of the article, who gave to the New York Times all of this false information. OSAP and ATIP were two different things. OSAP ended, and they started calling something ATIP. The people who were paid to run OSAP left, and Luis Elizondo declared himself the new head of an organization that no longer existed. And friends, there is a great deal of difference between being the director of a $22 million program and having some boring desk job at the Pentagon and sitting there pretending that you're the director of a UFO program that doesn't even exist. So there has been a great deal of deception by the United States government. We can also point to deception in the past surrounding UFOs in the United States government. Some examples that I can think of are the Benowitz case, in which a man was seeing early drone test flights in the 1980s at an Air Force base right near his home. But instead of getting that very patriotic guy aside, who, by the way, had government contracts for his business, instead of getting him aside and telling him the truth and telling him, these are drones, please stop publicizing what you're seeing, we're test flying secret aircraft and technology here. Instead, what the United States government decided to do was to employ disinformation agents to cozy up to that man, break into his home when he wasn't there, tamper with his computer and his equipment, and they paid disinformation agents to misinform. Again, we come back to the whole point of tonight, misdirection. The United States government, in the Benowitz case, paid disinformation agents of the Air Force of Office of Special Investigation, most notably Richard Doty. They paid Richard Doty to misdirect Paul Benowitz away from the truth. The truth is over here. They paid him, Richard Doty, to misdirect Benowitz away from the truth over here, over to here, and convince him. Richard Doty and multiple other disinformation agents cozied up to Paul Benowitz, befriended him, told him that what he was filming was incredible, what he was receiving may be alien messages from other advanced alien civilizations that are visiting Earth. They paid disinformation agents to lie to him, to misdirect him from the truth of what he was seeing, drones and top secret test flights of early drones, and then employed deception to make him believe that what he was seeing was alien spacecraft. And this deception and misdirection went so far that it literally drove Paul Benowitz crazy. Now, some people like Richard Doty, and I got to tell you, if you talk to him, he's a very likable fellow. And somehow now he's running around with new information that he claims that he has, top secret information that's more deception from a known paid government disinformation agent. The other great example that I could think of government misdirection and deception surrounding UFOs involves test flights of the Blackbird and the U-2. While the United States government was test flying the U-2 spy plane and later the SR-71 Blackbird in the United States, people began seeing incredible things. Aircraft capable of ridiculous speeds that normal aircraft just couldn't reach. And the strange shape of both the A-12 and the Blackbird, the U-2 and the Blackbird, these were not conventionally shaped aircraft. They weren't very similar to any other aircraft at the time. People began to report both the U-2 and the Blackbird as delta-shaped craft, as craft that had no rudders somehow, maybe due to the speed at which the aircraft were flying past both ground observers and people in the sky. Other pilots were seeing these things and reporting them as UFOs. The United States government at that time actively encouraged floating stories of aliens and alien spacecraft, that these UFOs may be alien spacecraft. And again, this was an attempt at misdirecting the United States public away from the truth. These were top secret spy planes that they were testing. They had to misdirect everyone away from the actual truth and direct them to a false truth. This is where counterintelligence comes in. It's the job of the counterintelligence person. Luis Elizondo, by the way, is a counterintelligence agent. It is the job of the counterintelligence agent to float a false truth, to contradict and muddy the waters of the real truth. That's what counterintelligence people do. During World War II, it was employed to great effort and great effect. The United States government knew that they would be storming the beaches at Normandy, but they used all kinds of counterintelligence officers, stories, and measures to misdirect the Nazi forces away from the real truth, that they would be storming the beach at Normandy. They all but convinced Hitler that they would invade at a totally different spot on the map through good counterintelligence. And this is what the United States government has been doing with UFOs. But curiously, many people believe that the United States government is covering up the truth about UFOs, but we can see specific examples of the United States government floating fake stories of UFOs and alien spacecraft to cover the truth. These, in many cases, the UFOs that people were seeing were human-built aircraft, very advanced human-built aircraft, secret human-built aircraft, but nonetheless human aircraft. And the United States government employed all kinds of agents and tactics to misdirect people away from the truth that these were human-made, super advanced aircraft being test flown into believing a false narrative that aliens Those things that people are seeing that can't be human made. They must be aliens. Another example, of course, is while the stealth fighter and stealth bomber were being test flown, people were seeing what could only be described as flying saucers due to the strange shape of both the stealth fighters and stealth bombers. And again, the United States government actively encouraged people to believe that these may be flying saucers or alien spacecraft, again employing the classic magician's tactic of misdirection. Look here, not over here where the truth is. Look to this fake deceptive story that we and our counterintelligence people put out into the public, encouraged people to believe in aliens and flying saucers so that they wouldn't see the actual truth. So the US government has employed both misdirection and deception surrounding the world of UFOs for quite some time. And we can cite specific examples of them doing it and later admitting that they did it and why. Some may also say that the United States government has employed misdirection and deception to cover up what may be actual alien visitation on Earth in cases like Roswell. I'm sorry, I don't buy the standard explanation. And there's far too many people who saw strange debris and even alien bodies, some say, to just explain it all away as misidentifications. So we can clearly establish that the United States government and other governments around the world have employed both misdirection and deception in their involvement with the UFO files and the alien truth. So next, we get on to another form of deception, and that is the deception of the UFO celebrities. Some people may be surprised to learn, but some of these top tier UFO celebrities are making literally millions of dollars selling people stories about aliens and flying saucers and UFOs and UAPs. It's all aliens, friends. And it seems that these UFO celebrities that push the alien hypothesis so much are profiting a great deal to the tune of millions of dollars. And we can cite specific examples of that. Dr. Stephen Greer certainly has made millions of dollars just from crowdfunding the documentaries he's produced, several $1 million. He's also made $500,000 at least in a crowdfunded campaign for a charity that he claims would bring the world anti-gravity and free energy. And no one knows what happened to that $500,000. He has explained it away that basically he got ripped off by people who were supposed to be building the prototypes and all of these fantastical stories, but no free energy. The UFO celebrities, and then we have Corey Goode, who has certainly made, by some accounts, millions of dollars. David Wilcock, millions of dollars. Tom DeLonge and TTSA collected $2 million from the public and spent it all on God knows what. Didn't deliver anything that they promised. I'm certain that James Fox has made probably millions of dollars. Let's see. Boy, who are the other top people? Perhaps Richard Dolan is approaching that level of income. Linda Moulton Hale is, by several accounts of people that I know that were close to her, told me that she is a millionaire. And she has done nothing but sell UFO stories for decades now. So, friends, whenever someone has the potential to make $1 million or several $1 million, as long as they keep pushing the narrative, the alien narrative, I don't think that you can trust them to always be truthful and not employed deception to make the con work, friends. Time and time again here at Truth Seekers, we have displayed a multitude of examples of UFO celebrities employing deceptive practices in order to make their fake stories about aliens work. Most recently, we caught Linda Moulton Howe using completely verifiably fake pictures of aliens, claiming to her followers and the people she was selling stories to that those were 100% genuine photos of aliens. We can see other cases of very deceptive practices being used. For example, Stephen Greer was caught at one of his CE5 events using military exercises where they were dropping flares, and he claimed that those were alien spacecraft while he was charging people mountains of money to attend the event. These are deceptive practices. We can cite more specific examples like David Wilcock's latest course, which cost $333, in which he told people, quote, "I will be teaching the secrets of anti-gravity and free energy, and after taking this course, you'll be able to do it too," unquote. So far, nobody has built an anti-gravity device that gave David Wilcock $333, or a free energy device that gave David Wilcock $333. Again, these are deceptive practices, and we can also get into some of the, let's call them more bottom feeders, like Third Phase of Moon. They employ all kinds of deceptive practices, like taking a video that they know is a Chinese space debris coming down from a rocket launch that looks kind of odd, and they knew it was Chinese space debris, and they post it to their YouTube channel pretending that it's a UFO, and they made $500, more than $500 on that one video. These are deceptive practices. We can get into things like Corey Good, who sold a $333 course that people were not aware of when they purchased the course, but he didn't even write the course. He just read what someone else had written for him to tell the people that paid the $333 for the course. That's deceptive. And we can get into a multitude of other examples, friends. The lie by omission deception is one of my favorites, whereby a UFO celebrity will employ a very, very problematic source, like a child molester, a rapist, or a convicted murderer, as the source of their so-called true alien story. When the story gets picked apart, pardon me, when we vet their source, after they've already made the money on the story, we then find out that the source that they were using is a convicted pedophile, a child rapist, or other sex offender, or a murderer, or some other criminal. And that deception employs simply the lie by deception. Excuse me, lie by omission. So that deception involves the lie by omission. Well, hey, this source told me that they met these aliens. This source told me that they go on secret missions to Mars to fight the Draco reptilian aliens. And I have them on film telling me this. They just forget to tell you that the person that they're using is a very problematic source in the form of some type of criminal. For those unaware, once you're a convicted sex offender, it's very difficult to find employment. So is it a big stretch to think that some convicted child molester wouldn't sit there after being coached by one of these UFO celebrities to tell fake alien stories so that everybody can make some money? The deception of the UFO celebrities goes further, however. because there is, of course, it's a big club and I ain't in it. So I can tell you the truth. But you will notice the further you get down this rabbit hole that there is an unwritten rule among all of these, especially the top tier UFO celebrities. We've all got to sell our bullshit and we've all got to get along. So one UFO celebrity will never generally call out the fakeness, the fraud, and the deception being employed by other UFO celebrities. And isn't that strange? For example, one may ask themselves, how many of the top tier celebrities, and by that I mean the people that all work the UFO conferences, how many of them talked about Linda Moulton Howe and how we here at Truth Seekers caught her using fake alien pictures, not once, but twice? Doesn't that sound like something that people should talk about? But you will find that the top tier celebrities, all who work together at these UFO conferences, again, it's a big club, I ain't in it, they will not call out the others. They will not comment on or discuss the others. Shouldn't Richard Dolan talk about deception in the world of UFOs and how her good friend and buddy, Linda Moulton Howe, who, by the way, she shares an employee with, he shares an employee with Linda Moulton Howe, or did at one time. They both share an employee who runs their Twitter feeds and social media. So is it any wonder Richard Dolan never talked about Linda Moulton Howe being caught using these fake alien pictures? And of course, Stephen Greer, none of them have talked about Linda Moulton Howe being caught, absolutely caught, dead to rights. I was going to say with her pants down, bad imagery there, caught dead to rights, defrauding the public with 100% verifiably, provably fake pictures of aliens, claiming they're pictures of real aliens. I would think that that's something important to talk about, but you will find none of these UFO celebrities are going to talk about Linda Moulton Howe and how she keeps getting caught using fake alien pictures. No one's going to talk about how Jimmy Church platformed Linda Moulton Howe even after we caught her using those fake pictures and let her spin more yarn surrounding those fake pictures. None of the UFO celebrities are going to talk about how Jimmy Church just platformed a laughable UFO hoaxer, alien hoaxer in the form of Dr. Jonathan Reed. No one will talk about that. No one will comment on that because they've all got to work at those UFO conferences with Jimmy Church. So besides the deception of them selling you deceptive and fake stories, there is another layer of deception there, wherein all of these UFO celebrities are colluding together to make the deception work. And they all seem to have an attitude that this form of deception that they're all employing, once revealed, will just go away if they don't talk about it. And I'm here to put them on warning. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay. So you people are going to have to deal with me scrutinizing your claims, fact-checking your claims, vetting the sources that you don't vet. If nothing else, I will make it much harder for these UFO con artists to con people going forward. I'm going to make them work for those UFO dollars from now on. And I feel good about that. Someone needs to tell them this is not acceptable. Using a child molester to sell a fake story about aliens is no longer acceptable. Using a murderer is no longer acceptable. Using verifiably fake pictures of aliens and lying through your teeth, telling people they're pictures of real aliens is no longer acceptable here. And I'm glad to say that I'm not the only one now. There are others waking up to the deception who are saying this is unacceptable. We are going to hold your feet to the fire when you knowingly defraud the public with your fake stories. So we also have deception surrounding UFOs involving the defense contractors. For those unaware, the defense contractors suck a larger part of the United States annual budget than anyone. And there are currently defense contractors that are developing all kinds of fun techno toys. And I believe that they too actively encourage people to believe that what they're seeing in the skies is aliens and flying saucers and not things like stealth blimps, things like stealth drones, things like observation platforms, spy planes, supersonic aircraft and drones that they are developing. Yes, the deception goes further than just the government. It goes further than just these UFO celebrities out to make millions of dollars selling stupid people fake stories about aliens. The deception goes into private industry. And these private industries have a vested interest to keep their money. After all, it's black budget money for a reason. No one knows how much. No one knows where all that black budget money goes. And the people in the form of the defense contractors who are receiving all that money, they like you and I in the dark. I once heard Michael Schratt give a presentation about the A-12 Avenger, in which, and you'll pardon my memory, he was talking about a project called the A-12 Avenger, in which the United States government wasted, I believe, trillions of dollars developing the A-12 Avenger, and then they canceled it. And Michael Schratt jokingly said, can I get a bolt? Can I get, a piece of the cockpit, something for our trillions of dollars? So, of course, there is deception around this whole thing in private industry, especially with defense contractors. We have deception of the public through Pentagon contractors in the form of Bob Bigelow. He took $22 million from taxpayer money to study a ranch that he himself owned. And there was an awful lot of deception used in the study of that ranch, including people just straight making up stories. There's all kinds of stories of people getting drunk and faxing Bigelow fake stories about aliens and fake stories about UFOs and werewolves or whatever, paranormal stuff. So there is deception in the form of a lot of lies out of Pentagon contractors, including Bigelow, Skinwalker, and more. One moment, friends. No, that's not it. I'm getting pinged here, so just bear with me for one moment. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to exit out of everything and devote my full attention to you. My apologies. So back to my bullet points here. Other Pentagon people like Luis Elizondo have, of course, used deception. He, after all, was deceptive to the New York Times. He lied to the New York Times. He's lied to the UFO community, and he's lied to the general public. He's lied to people hiring him to be on Fox News, I believe, calling himself the director of a program that we now know never actually existed, saying that he ran a program that had $22 million in funding when we know that the program didn't exist and had no funding. Funding had ran out before any involvement he had ever happened. We have deception by members of Congress. For example, Senator Harry Reid, who deceptively somehow generated $22 million of taxpayer money to give to his longtime supporter, Bob Bigelow. We have deception by other members of Congress for various reasons. Why are these people like Tim Burchett and Rubio all of a sudden all chips in on UFOs. One has to ask themselves, why did they never talk about UFOs before? Why are they suddenly all chips in saying we need funding, we need new programs? Do they have something to gain by promoting the UFO phenomena? Of course they do, friends. Along with deception by members of Congress around the world of UFOs, we certainly have deception by members of the media. And I mean both mainstream and alternative media. If we look at the mainstream media, first of all, the New York Times got that original story completely and totally so wrong. And every other member of the media just took what they wrote and ran with it. Nobody fact-checked any of the so-called facts that we now know to be false in that original article. So, the way the mainstream media seems to work is one person has a big story. They see that it gets a huge amount of attention, and they all but copy and paste out of the original article and do their own article. So they too can get the clicks and the views and the attention and make money. We do live in an attention-based economy. The more attention that you can garner, the more money you can make on the internet. That's how all of this works. But isn't it interesting that all of these professional journalists were so easily deceived largely by one man, Luis Elizondo, and his deception of the New York Times? After that New York Times article, that story ran like wildfire throughout all of the media, who all but just copied and pasted all of the fake facts out of the New York Times article, therefore amplifying the deception, therefore spreading the deception. Why didn't any member of the media fact check Luis Elizondo? Why didn't any member of the media who copied and pasted out of the New York Times article fact check the so-called facts in the New York Times article? They didn't. They didn't care. And that deception may have been simply money motivated. Who cares if the story is true? Who cares if these facts are really facts, as long as we get the clicks and the views? And we stood by and watched the media essentially copy and paste every fake fact out of Luis Elizondo's mouth and amplify it through the entire internet and every media source on it. This is how an op works, friends. Next, we have the deception of documentary filmmakers, something that I have been increasingly aware of. My favorite example is the Cousins brothers, who do a documentary with Stephen Greer. And instead of telling people the truth, that this is largely just a repeat of all his other documentaries, they hyped up their documentary for like more than a year, even employing other stupid people like Goofon to tell you how great the documentary is and how groundbreaking and all this stuff. This new documentary is going to be amazing. And then what happens is the inevitable, that thing I keep talking about, the overpromising, then comes the under-delivering, and then comes the big letdown. So other documentary filmmakers like Stephen Greer have intentionally defrauded the public through deception. Does anybody remember the Atacama? How do you say that? The deformed human fetus that he ran around telling everybody was an alien for years, right? It just so happens that the DNA results didn't come back about that thing just being human until right after he released the documentary. Friends, that was intentional. If the DNA results show that this is just a normal human, though a very deformed one, not normal human, a deformed human, there's no documentary. There's no $1 million payoff if you simply show that creature and then do the DNA tests and include the DNA results in the documentary saying it was just human. That, my friends, I believe was intentional deception. He could have held the documentary's release for a few weeks. It only takes a very short period of time to analyze DNA. So, and he had Dr. Gary Nolan the whole time involved in the documentary and the filming process. Couldn't he have hurried up Gary Nolan and said, get the DNA results because we have to put it in the documentary? Of course he could have. But instead, he employed deception and let the documentary come out, leaving people wonder, wow, yeah, this may be an alien. Looks like an alien. Sounds like an alien. It's got a lot of strange anatomical features that might lead some people to believe it's an alien. That was deception, employed by documentary filmmaker Stephen Greer. Next, we get my favorite, one of my other favorite things, the VIP access deception. Do you know right now that Tom DeLonge is selling a $50,000 VIP package where him and members of his team will brief you about everything they know about the paranormal? And it only costs $50,000. Now, of course, that's on the high end. Or you could spend $75 and have a VIP lunch with Travis Taylor of Skinwalker Ranch fame, where he will straight give you fake facts. People recently paid $75 to visit Travis Taylor and do a VIP lunch with him. And during that lunch, he told everyone that Bob Bigelow sold Skinwalker Ranch because he believed Skinwalker Ranch had killed his wife. But the problem is the timelines don't match. Bigelow sold the ranch long before his wife died. I think he sold the ranch in 2015. His wife didn't die until 2020. So what you get for your VIP access, see, that's deceptive too. They lead you to believe that you're a VIP. We're going to let you in on some of these real deep secrets that we don't talk about in normal ways, like in our normal, regular people talks. But you're a VIP. Pay the extra $100 and sit here and have lunch with me while I tell you fake stories. Travis Taylor literally told a fake story to people who all paid $75. I believe that's a form of consumer fraud, but that's my opinion. And by the way, one of the other deceptive tactics that you'll see used is that when people get caught dead to rights doing slimy things like this, like taking $75 and then lying through your teeth to people, Travis Taylor got caught dead to rights lying to people. Is he going to apologize? Is he going to give the $75 back to everybody he lied to? Of course not. He's going to do the Cosmic Con shuffle and just shuffle off and hope everybody forgot that they paid $75 to be lied to. Next, we get the members only deception. Join my website. Join my members only site. They all do the same thing, friends. They all imply that there's some super secret stuff behind that paywall that you're going to get if you pay them for that members only access or that VIP access or that website, private access. There's nothing. There's no secrets behind their paywall. Largely, it's the same crap that's in front of their paywalls. Maybe a little extra, and that's it. But they all seem to market that there is some sort of extra, that's where we keep the secrets. We have to keep, they say things like we have to keep some things really private. So that's going to be in my members only section. No, that's called, I'm a greedy shit. And you paying me super chats or whatever, that's not enough. Or you paying to visit, to hear me speak at conferences or buy my books, that's not enough. I'm going to have a members only section so that I can con some of you others out of even more money. I have personally investigated some of these members only sites, and we'll have a piece about that coming up. And it's kind of laughable, friends. We have the deception of the UFO gurus and messiahs. We recently saw, uh, you know, Stephen Greer is my favorite fake UFO guru because this guy's going to tell you that he got superpowers and he learned to communicate with aliens. And for just $10, if you buy his app, you'll learn to communicate with aliens too, and you'll learn to call the spaceships in. No one who bought that app can show me that they can communicate with aliens. No one who bought that $10 app can show me that they can summon spaceships. But that hasn't stopped Stephen Greer from profiting to the tune of millions of dollars selling a bullshit app full of things that were largely copied from Transcendental Meditation, which, by the way, Transcendental Meditation is free. You don't need to pay Stephen Greer $10. You can get almost the same exact thing he's selling in that app for free. We also have deception in the form of other UFO messiahs like UFO Jesus. Love that name. And by the way, I think he's backed down from calling himself UFO Jesus now. Maybe he has saw the error of his ways and realizes how deceptive it is to call yourself UFO Jesus. We saw a recent example of just how deceptive this UFO guru, UFO Jesus, is, because we looked at a video and listened to a video of him from just a few short years ago, and it was absolutely, almost entirely, completely and totally provably false statements. Now, while I realize that hindsight is 2020, you can go through his timeline and all of his statements are deceptive, because what that UFO guru does, and this is deceptive in and of itself, is he does no research, no work, no fact checking. He simply repeats the talking points of the higher up UFO celebrities. And this is problematic because they lie through their teeth constantly. So if he's just repeating what they say, do you see how this deception can get amplified and even razor focused to some audiences? No, UFO Jesus is a deceptive UFO guru who we can prove time and time again makes absolutely, completely, and totally false statements and makes money lying. Essentially, he's making money making false statements. He's making money. He is a professional liar, this UFO Jesus. Next, and finally, we get the classified information deception. Recently, Richard Doty has claimed that he got a hold of a list of everyone who traveled in or out of Area 51 somehow. And it came on a printout of old printer paper somehow. Okay, this is problematic, friends, because if you were actually in possession of real classified information, you would be investigated and arrested. And so far, Richard Doty hasn't been put in prison for this so-called list that he claims he has of every employee that flew in and out of Area 51 for the past, or excuse me, for a 10-year period, 89 to 90 something, or was it 88 to 90 something? He claimed he had a list of everyone traveling in or out of Area 51 for a period of 10 years, and further claimed that Bob Lazar's name was on there. No. This is not how this works, and he knows that, being a former intelligence officer. Friends, if someone was in possession of a list of everyone that flew in or out of Area 51 for a 10-year period, someone would raid their house, their business, their car immediately and get that list back. If a list such as that would fall into the hands of our adversaries, there would create all kinds of problems. Sources and methods, identifying people who are working on black budget, secret projects, and more. A list such as that must exist, but it is not in the hands of Richard Doty or anyone else who lies to you and tells you that they have this They have classified information. Friends, there's something called the Espionage Act. And if you're in possession of classified information, you're arrested, you're prosecuted. And there is what I call the classified information deception in the world of UFOs. We've seen Richard Doty pull this, claiming he had classified information. We've seen Richard Dolan claiming that he was in possession of classified information from the classified version of the UAP report, congressional report. Jimmy Church also claimed that he was in possession of classified information in the form of information from the classified version of that UAP report. And we covered that. No, they didn't. No, they didn't have classified information. No, they were not in possession of classified information. And we have seen Richard Dolan had to walk it back, right? We've got a previous video here where he had to walk that bullshit back, because what he did is the classified information scam. He implied, or in his case, it wasn't an implication. He straight said, I've just been sent information from the classified version of the UAP report. And this is a deceptive practice so that people pay attention. Wow, he's got classified information. He's got information from the classified version of the UAP report. We better tune in and see what he says. And then the views go through the roof when he did that, because everybody wants to hear what classified information has been leaked to Richard Dolan. Nobody's leaking shit to Richard Dolan. He's full of shit, friends. He's full of it. And so is Jimmy Church, who claimed the same thing around that time. Both of them had to walk back their statements that they were in possession of classified information from a classified version of the UAP report. So it is a common tactic for UFO celebrities to pretend that they're in possession of classified information. But again, friends, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. If you are indeed in possession of classified information, you are arrested and prosecuted, like Snowden, right? Or Manning, or any of these other people that got caught actually being in possession of classified information. Or Assange. You cannot get away with just being in possession of classified information. So when a UFO huckster tells you that they have information that's classified, it's a con. It's a scam. And the fact that you don't see FBI agents blasting through their doors while they're doing a live stream is evidence that it's a scam and a con when they tell you that. Because that's what would happen if you really had the information that some of these stupid UFO celebrities claim to be in possession of. And I have seen this with many more people. There's many more examples of this taking place. So in the world of UFOs, I would caution all of you to be extremely, extremely cautious about any information that anyone is conveying to you, because the world of UFOs is absolutely overwhelmed with fake information, disinformation, and people being deceptive in order to make money on these fake stories. We have seen time and time again, I can read you chapter and verse of people using fake sources from fake people with fake educations and fake work histories to sell fake stories. So while I understand that some people have an intense interest in this subject, I myself am similarly afflicted. I have to strongly caution everyone within the sound of my own voice that when you listen to these people, you always must remember that 90% of these stories and the people selling them are employing both misdirection and deception and deceptive practices and deceptive sources, or things like deceptive editing, right? We'll just edit out the part where this guy's a rapist who told us about the aliens. We'll just edit out the part that this guy's a convicted murderer. We'll just edit out the part where we looked into this person's education and found out that they're a fake doctor. They're not a real doctor. They dropped out of high school, this guy. We'll just edit that part out. No, friends, unfortunately, and probably for the foreseeable future, because this has been since the beginning of this thing, the world of UFOs and aliens is absolutely overwhelmed with, again, fake information, purposeful disinformation, fake stories, fake people, fake sources, and more. And I can only assume that much of this deception is tied to money. After all, if you were able to make $1 million and all you had to do was deceptively edit the documentary or leave out parts of the story, like the source being very problematic or a fake doctor or a rapist or a child molester, in order to make the story work, some people would do that. Some people would say, hey, we're going to make $1 million on this documentary. Let's just not vet the guy that's a fake doctor. Let's just not mention that this person talking about the aliens or his secret space trips to Mars is a child molester. Let's just leave that out. And finally, the grand deception among all of these people that are making ridiculous amounts of money on UFOs, one of the grand methods of deception and misdirection that they employ is to not talk to you about this like I have tonight. They all ignore all of this. They don't talk about it. If 90% of the stories about aliens are fake, wouldn't it be maybe important to talk to your audience and tell them the truth? Do any of them do that? Do any of them talk about let's just take us as an example here. We have busted more fakes, frauds, con artists, scammers, liars, and criminals, really, here selling fake alien stories than anybody. And I'm not looking for thanks from people, but instead of being thanked by these people who are making millions of dollars playing a part in this grand deception, I am vilified. I am the devil here. And all I've done here is peel back the layers, the many, many layers of the deception being employed against the public, and told you the truth, revealed for you the truth. And I get vilified for that? Yes. Yes, my friends, I do. But I appreciate the support of the real truth seekers who don't want to be lied to or misdirected or deceived, who are looking for the truth behind these strange and esoteric topics, and understand that sometimes the truth is ugly. And if I have been ugly or unkind in my pursuit of the truth, then I apologize. My newfound sobriety has given me a greater perspective. And I understand that some of the criticism about some of my ranting and things may be well placed. But it was passion which led me to those outbursts. And I won't apologize for being passionate about my pursuit of the truth. And with that, friends, we will end tonight's presentation, but I've got more time, so I will do two things. I will remind you that this is a viewer-supported show. And unlike the UFO celebrities who can employ things like deception, lies, fake sources, and criminals to help them generate income, I always say this, it's like I'm trying to run a marathon here with two broken legs trying to compete with these people. We can't employ the same tactics of deception. We can't lie to you. We can't show you fake pictures and claim they're real aliens, because we are the true truth seekers here. So this is a viewer-supported show, and there's a few ways you can do that. The first is through that super chat, the money button. The second way is through PayPal. We take PayPal pledges and or Cash App, and instructions to do that are in the description of the video. I'm a terrible salesperson, but there is also our Patreon, where we do offer extra content and early access to our produced videos before they're made public. We also do a monthly show journal and a few, oh, I got blurry like Bigfoot there, our monthly show journal and a few extra goodies that you get. And I hate putting things behind a paywall, but the Patreon really does help us to pay our show bills here, the software we use, the Google Cloud Drive that we share our evidence with, and other resources. And our Patreon's $1 a month. You can pledge more than that, but it's only $1 a month. And I always say this: if you are in reduced circumstances, just send me an email. It's very simple to do that. We have a list of people that are having a tough time. I realize it's a tough economy out there. So if you're having a tough time and you really enjoy the show and you're a supporter of the show and you'd like to get those extra goodies, don't let $1 stop you. Just email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com, truthseekershow@gmail.com, and we will put you on a special list we have. And many of those people got the extra goodies through that email list, and then when their circumstances improved, became a Patreon. I don't want to stop anybody, and I hate putting things behind a paywall. The other way that you could support us is by becoming a channel member here on YouTube. There's a join button. That's $5 a month, but you get all the Patreon benefits and some extra YouTube goodies. That's my only sales spiel for you. I won't be selling you shitty coffee or crystal skulls or any other bullshit. All I have to offer you is some of my time and passion. So the Patreon folks get a few extra goodies, and they get goodies a little early, and so do the channel members here. And that's the way our show is supported. The other thing that I would remind you is that besides throwing money at us, the other way that you could support us is by liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing these videos on your social media. It really does help. And if you happen to be listening in audio podcast land, you always hear me say this: you're missing half the fun. We love and appreciate all of you people listening in audio podcast land. But if you're listening in audio podcast land, those are the replays. We tape the show live here on our YouTube channel. So please do, if you're listening in audio podcast land, come and join us. Go on over to YouTube, hit that magnifying glass to search for us, and just put Truth Seekers, one word. A strange guy with sunglasses will pop up with the word Truth Seekers. That would be us. Click on that channel, then smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you too will know when we're doing a live show. And we welcome you to come and join us. Now we'll be taking questions and comments from the live chat. I do want to check in with you, kind and generous super chatters. 1 second. Huh, that's weird. 1 second, friends. Okay, we've got Lord Ludicrous Plaid, the super chatter MVP with the kind and generous $1.99, says, great show tonight. Continued congrats on sobriety. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and your support, and $1.99 as well for Spooky. Thank you very much for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. We appreciate Lord Ludicrous and all of our kind and generous benefactors. You should know that we read every single super chat that is sent in. I watch horrified as some bigger shows don't even thank the super chatters, let alone read the super chats. But we here absolutely do that. And we also want to thank Lord Ludicrous Plaid. And also we have a kind and generous $2 pledge from PayPal from Mikey with no message, but we thank you, Mikey, for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. And And thank you, Lord Ludicrous, a longtime show supporter, for always helping us to praise the cash.
This is Trixie from Truth Seekers, thanking you for your generosity. I'm gonna praise the cash so hard, those blue chickens turn blue.
Praise the cash, Lord Ludicrous. So questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. I see Spooky is here. And Spooky, you know why, but I had a very busy day today, and I just totally forgot until I was sitting right here at broadcast time to tell you about this thumbnail. So we know that the title of tonight's show is there. And we've got the generic thumb going, and it is tonight is all about deception, misdirection, and UFOs. And Spooky, at your leisure, if you want to do a thumb for that, I will of course update the show. And special thanks to Spooky, who is always helping to make our graphics not look as shitty as they did when I did the graphics and the thumbnails. And was that show already, Spooky, where you had Squidding? Because I asked him for an interview like 3 times. He didn't come. Yeah. Walter Bosley said, her husband must always be laughing. Funny women are cool. Yes, she is one of my favorite people, Walter Bosley. And that's Intel Lady helps us with the thanking people for the money bumpers. So if you like Intel Lady, also known as Trixie Loose, Trixie Loose, her YouTube channel is in the description of this video. Also, Spooky's YouTube channel is in the description of the video. Make sure you subscribe to both. So comments or questions to me, especially about tonight's presentation, please do put them in all capital letters. I apologize for not getting to the live chat until now, but when I have these stream of consciousnesses, it's best to just keep going and finish. Finish the notes, finish the bullet points, right? Crypto Alchemist says, Stephen, please do a show on Truth Quest with Aaron something, the worst channel on YouTube. I'll look into it. I will look into it. Justin Wilson reminding everybody hit like. Spooky said, I made a thumbnail. I didn't see that you did, and I apologize. I don't know how you made a thumbnail when I didn't tell you what the show was about until... I didn't. Yeah, 1 second. Did you make a thumbnail? I don't know. Oh, I'm stuck here in the wrong place. 1 second. Yeah, so Spooky usually gets to me before the show, and I have to switch profiles. Facebook is really getting on my nerves because now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Spooky did do a thumbnail. Yeah, so I can share that right now, and I will update the show with the proper thumbnail. Lazy show host today. Again, tonight's show was all about deception, misdirection, and UFOs, and thanks to Spooky for making that thumbnail. So any questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. Otherwise, we're going to call tonight a shorter one for once. I have a lot of stuff going on, and I do need to do some other things. We've got a couple of big production videos. We will also have our premiere of my interview with John McAfee this week. Host surprise for you this week. Yes, Justin Wilson, everybody hit like. Arlene Atkinsell says, just say no to crystal skulls and coffee seals. Yeah, and just say no to jerk offs too. For those unaware, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Church. I think it's fade to bull. He falsely copyright struck us, and that created a lot of anxiety and psychological, unpleasantness, right? Maybe I've got a case. He completely and totally falsely copyright struck us, right? Oh, here we go. Cynical Observer is here and says, Stephen, I listened to your interview with Stanton Friedman earlier. Great stuff. I miss Stanton. And I miss him as well. Besides interviewing him a few times, I also did occasionally just call him and ask him for advice or talk to him about a case that I was looking into or working on. And he was an amazing guy, and I miss him. I miss him especially when I hit a dead end. Like if I'm looking into a case or a story and I hit a dead end, used to be that I would call Stanton Friedman. I try not to bug him. I would only call him like once in a while. But he used to tell me, "Oh, you can call me whenever, kid. I'm tired now. I'm bored." He always called me kid. So I miss him a lot when I get stuck, because he would offer a lot of great suggestions for how to continue with the story after you thought, I can't read. There's nothing left to research. I'm hitting dead ends here. He would always point me in the right direction, right? You will love trolling how horrible Truth Quest is. You need to steal their subs and destroy their nonsense. CIA before that, Corey No Good. Oh, I think I know what you mean. Those two guys, those two clowns, they got like tons of subscribers too, and they're both dumb as shit. I know what show you're talking about. I mean, I don't really want to troll them. Any comments on the UFO reports from Ukraine? No, Mark, not yet. But I did spend a portion of today looking into that. We're going to do a show on them. And, you know, I like to have facts in hand before putting mouth in gear. And by the way, Cynical Observer, that is also something that I learned from Stanton Friedman. That was one of his sayings: have facts in hand before putting mouth in gear. Grant Levac says, which magicians inspired you growing up? Really, David Copperfield and Lance Burton is who made me want to become a magician. And I did get to meet Lance Burton and talk to him, but I never did get to meet David Copperfield. And someday I will, maybe. You know, and one of the strange things about magicians is that you've heard of that 7 degrees of separation, or whatever the term is. Maybe it's 6 degrees. How many degrees? You know, there's that saying that there's only so many degrees of separation between you and everyone else in the world. In the world of magic, there's really only 1 degree of separation, which generally means if I don't know a magician, I know some of his friends who can then introduce me if I want to know that magician. It's a very small subculture, and we generally all know each other, or, like I said, maybe 1 degree of separation, you know? Yeah. Yeah, and here's where we get problematic. Chris Johansson says, your bro Corf says Stanton was a liar. Well, here's where things get really problematic, because somehow, you know, I contribute 10 pages to a book project he was doing, and I had him on as a guest a few times, and then people just assume that I agree with everything the guy has ever said for his entire life, or that I don't think some of the things that he has said in the past is crazy and wackadoo. That's where you're in error, Chris Johansson. I'm certainly free to disagree with Cal Corf or anybody else, right? Grant Levac says, I love Lance. I had the good fortune of seeing him in Vegas and meeting him after the show. Yeah, me too. He's one of the good guys in magic. A lot of the people don't know this, but the reason Lance Burton retired and shut down his show is because the casino came to him and wanted him to fire all of his long-term employees that have been running the show with him for 10 years and hire non-union people for half the price. He refused to do so. He shut the show down instead of doing that. And got to respect that, right? Some guys would have said those people are going to lose their jobs either way. If I quit, they'll lose their job. If I retire, they'll lose their job. If I just get different people, they'll lose their job. He wasn't willing to throw them all under the bus. They helped him build that show, he said. So he stuck by them, and he said, I will walk if you won't pay. You continue to pay the crew here. And by the way, he had an extremely profitable show. It was always sold out every day. His show sold out every day for something like 10 years. That'll tell you how greedy Las Vegas people are. A show that sells out every day for 10 years and you're still trying to squeeze some more money out of them by firing the long-term employees of that successful show and hiring a bunch of scabs. It's unfortunate, but yeah. B. Baker says Nick Pope teased a second Calvine photo on Coast to Coast. The mod said there was nothing. Total tease scammer. Yeah, that's the big letdown. B. Baker is feeling the big letdown after, oh, by the way, we can stop that now. B. Baker's feeling the big letdown. First comes the overhyping and under-delivering, and next comes the big letdown. They all overhype. They all under-deliver. Yeah, I'm aware he had his differences, and I'm sure that Korf knows. He knows how I feel about. Well, and we have John Williams just became a YouTube member, and I'm not sure, but that may be John Williams Warner. If it is, welcome, Mr. Warner. It's always nice to have billionaire friends, right? And for those unaware, John William Warner sent my children this huge case of astronaut ice cream. And thank you, by the way. They had such a good time with it, and it became like this whole thing. And they were like breaking into the pantry to get to the astronaut ice cream. I caught them. My youngest son can't reach it, so he would get a chair and tell my older son to go get the ice cream down from the top shelf of the pantry. They had a ball with it. Thank you. Cynical Observer says, I don't really trust Cal, even if I agree with a lot of his conclusions. Well, I agree with a lot of his conclusions, and I disagree with a lot of his others. I disagree with him on Roswell, and I disagree with him. I can't disagree with him on Stanton Friedman and the star map, because it does appear that he was right about that. And Stanton got it wrong. But, you know, Mr. Friedman was a human being, just like everyone, and he has the capability of getting it wrong. Archaic Revival reminding me it's 6 degrees. Why did I think it was 7 degrees of separation? It is 6 degrees of separation. By the way, I want to remind everybody, you too can become a channel member. Just click that join button and you get all the Patreon links that I post every month and a bunch of other extra goodies. And thanks to John Williams for becoming today's new Patreon member, or excuse me, YouTube channel member. You get the Patreon benefits too, though, so don't worry about that. B. Baker says, I like Cal, but sometimes he does get involved too much with the back and forth. I love Stanton. He did mess up a few times, as will I. We're all humans. UFO Watchdog, what do you think about? Yeah, you know, like I said, I leave Cal to defend himself. That's what I have said about any of the controversial things he said in the past or wackadoo stuff. I say the same thing. I say go to Cal and address those issues with Cal. And Talmud says, Stephen, thank you for being a truth seeker. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, I'm aware. He says it wasn't just wrong. He knew and kept pushing the bullshit. That's a bit different. But I talked to Stanton about that, who disagrees with his conclusions. So, you know, the man's dead. I say if he made a mistake, let him rest in peace, right? That's what I think. And listen, and this is another thing. Occasionally, people do attack me about Cal and some of the things that he has said in the past, and like, well, how can you not? How can you do this or do that? He asked me once to contribute to a book, and I felt very strongly about the subject of the book. I had my own experience about that was directly involved with that book, so I gave him 10 pages. But first of all, that book didn't really sell. It's a subculture of a subculture of a subculture would even know anything about that book. So, you know, he asked me to contribute. He did me favors being a guest here. So I did him a favor and wrote 10 pages of a book. and I didn't ask to have my name put on it. He did that. I didn't even. I wasn't even. As best as I can recall, I wasn't even aware that my name was going on the book until he published the book. I thought I was just giving him, my story of involvement with the Wendell Stevens, sort of cover up about him being a child molester. But my point is that I can't, there's no such thing as a perfect guest. Everybody who is here as a guest may have some people who really don't like that guest. And it's unfortunate, but sometimes people blame me if they really don't like the guest, or they blame me, or somehow assume that if I have someone as a guest, that means that I have to agree with everything they've ever said. And that's problematic. And really, actually, it's impossible. There's no way that I could possibly know. Was I aware of some of the stuff that people have been very critical of him when I asked him to be a guest? No. After being made aware of it, I told people, if you have questions, go to Cal, because Cal says, come on my show. That's all bullshit. I'll dispute it. I'll tell you the real story. Come on my show and ask your questions or whatever. And I think that's fair. So I let him defend himself. I'm not here to defend him. And that's really all I have to say about that. We have, Chris Johansson. People make all kinds of assumptions, right? Yeah, here's what I will say. I will never, I don't want to ever be a co-author. Well, never say never, but I don't think I want to be a co-author with anyone, because then it also is like, well, you must be endorsing everything that person ever said because you wrote a book with them. I didn't really write a book with them. I gave them 10 pages, and it becomes problematic because then people think that I agree with everything he ever said. So going forward, any books that I do will be solely my own. I don't really like people making those assumptions, and people do make all kinds of assumptions, right? Mysterious Moon Bases says, you're rolling on the lives, brother. Yeah, we have been. So, but listen, we're going to wrap things up here. I have a great deal of other things to get to tonight. I do want to say that I'm happy. It is now officially mock turtleneck and turtleneck weather, and I love turtlenecks and mock turtlenecks. There's something about them. It makes me feel warm and cozy. I love them. And I love that time of the year. Of course, for some people, it's just pumpkin spice time of the year. But yeah. So I've had a pretty busy day and even night. Earlier tonight, I was running around. I'm collecting some very antique hand woodworking tools, like old hand saws and a draw knife. For those that are unaware, a draw knife is what you peel the bark off of logs with, and some other things. And there's a fun reason for that, and I'll have more details about that. Some big changes coming. I'll have more details about that another time when everything is more solid and I know more. So we're going to bounce on out of here, friends. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors who, I want to thank each and every one of our kind and generous benefactors, super chatters, super sticker purchasers, Patreon supporters, PayPal people, Cash App senders. We love and appreciate all of you. And we love and appreciate all of you who show up to these shows. I always say this, friends. I'm always happy when there's an audience. And tonight we had a great one. Thank you for coming here and being a part of mine. So this is something that I wanted to get off my chest. It is now off of my chest and out there in the real world. Hopefully it will do some good. And again, I would caution you when consuming these stories to be extremely cautious. To use discernment, to fact check the things people say. Don't just accept that what they're telling you is truthful. You really have to fact check these people selling these alien and UFO stories. And the deception is so thick that one should be extremely cautious before believing the stories out there. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.
This is Trixie from Truth Seekers, thanking you for your generosity. I'm gonna praise the cash so hard, your co-creative consciousness is gonna explode all over the